streets represent. They see our pair of hanging shoes and think the hood or the ghetto side of town. They're right. It's most prevalent in areas where poverty is higher. For as far back as I can remember, I recall on many occasions walking into all kinds of neighborhoods, from Sacktown to the Bay Area, all the way down through the Central Valley to Los Angeles and San Diego. And even when I would go to Tijuana and down to Mexico City, I remembered that each time I saw a pair of shoes just hanging from the telephone lines. Sometimes it was more than one pair. I think the majority of people have at some point seen a pair of hanging shoes somewhere in the world. A lot of people ask me, but what do they mean? But the truth is that there has always been several meanings associated with a pair of hanging shoes. Some people use them to indicate that someone in the area is doing something illegal. In other places, each pair of shoes represents a person from that hood who has just passed away. Other people throw them up there just for fun because they've seen it done in the movies. Others just take it upon themselves to decorate the neighborhood because it makes them feel at home. And even though there's all these meanings associated with a pair of hanging shoes, to us, on the streets, our shoes mean a better way of life. Even though many of us grow up rough, we don't have to get stuck there. There's always a way out. And that's what we represent. That's exactly why we're out there reaching out to kids who are growing up in these areas. And that's the message we give them. We want them to feel that a better way of life is within their reach, and we want them to be inspired enough to reach for that better life. The kids that are growing up in these areas typically live around the poverty line. These are the areas that are hit the hardest when it comes to drugs, gangs, witnessing domestic violence, experiencing child abuse, child neglect. I know from experience that some of these children have only one parent in their life, and others have no parents. That's a rough life. From a child's perspective, things seem so hopeless. But it's only when you give up on yourself that the situation becomes hopeless. That's why I say to all my little brothers and sisters out there, keep pushing yourself that extra mile. Make something of yourself, and don't be afraid to try different things, because chances are you're good at something. You just haven't discovered it yet. Even if you fail 99 times, get up and try again for the 100th time. That's what it means to be persistent. And I see a lot of that in skateboarding and other street sports. In skateboarding, you have all these youngsters out there trying all these tricks. They fall and try again. And again they fall, and again they try. That's what it takes. I remember on one occasion when we were up in the Bay Area, we came across this one skater from Los Angeles. He kept trying to land this trick off a set of stairs. The guy kept falling, but each time he kept getting back up. He tried it again and again. I even told him to take a break, and he was like, nah. He just kept trying. The guy had heart. He wouldn't give up on himself. Then finally, after so many attempts, he landed it. And that's what our brand represents. That's the message we're giving. Never give up on yourself, because a better way of life is on the other side. A lot of these kids who are growing up around the poverty line have nothing else to do. So they just post up on the block somewhere and think of ways to be entertained. They live in places where the cops are constantly responding to calls, making arrests, seizing contraband, places where rival gang members shoot at each other. In many cases, the child becomes a product of his environment and is led to the wrong path, especially when there's bad influence around. And so eventually they end up becoming part of the penal system. And the cycle only repeats with the next generation. But how can we change this? This life is filled with lots of good, but it also has lots of misery. One thing that I just can't get past is this cycle of drugs and poverty. It's a vicious environment for any child to have to endure. And what happens is that these experiences have lasting effects that become etched in their minds, because these children are in their developing stages of life. They're in the process of figuring out who they are in this world and what they're gonna do in life. In fact, these are the stages that are setting up the foundation for the rest of their lives. And it's a sad situation when that child is growing up with no love, no affection, no guidance, no understanding on how to go about life, and never having experienced an act of kindness, or if they do, it's very minimal. In many cases, there's no family structure or support system. If one person would just reach out to them, it would have a big impact on them. That's why we do what we do. That's why we started our Skateboard Society Project. What we do is we go around giving away free skateboards to kids living in impoverished neighborhoods. We go to the impoverished side of town and find kids who roam the streets with no parental supervision. We ask them if they like skateboarding and then ask to speak with their guardians, whether it's a grandparent or what have you. We introduce ourselves and explain what we do. Afterwards, we give them a small workshop right there on the spot on how to assemble a skateboard. We teach them the names of all the parts, where they go, and we show them a few tricks once the board is completely assembled. A lot of these kids are looking for something to do, and I know that because they show such keen interest in putting the skateboard together. Many kids growing up in these neighborhoods are never given the extras in life. No one's gonna buy them an Xbox or a computer or a laptop or an iPad, so they look for other things to do. For many of them, the streets are wide open. What does a child find on the streets? There's darkness in every city, but there's good also. Should we let the darkness overcome the good? The way I see it, these kids are better off learning skate tricks rather than taking state trips to places like juvenile hall, CYA, prison, or even worse, ending up dead due to gang violence or a drug overdose. I've lost family and friends to that, and I'm sure many of our viewers can relate to that as well. When we give one of these kids a skateboard, we're not only giving them something to do and look forward to, but we're also giving them an identity in the skater community. And for some of these kids, that's more than they will ever receive from anyone. Either they have no parents to buy them these things because they live in foster care or some other similar situation, or they live with a single parent who can barely afford food and rent. They don't expect to receive anything extra. So whenever we come around and give them a high quality professional grade skateboard, they light up with joy. They're like, wow, for real? For free? And I'm like, yeah. And we always let them know why we're giving them a skateboard. We ask them, do you know why you're getting a free skateboard? And they say, no, why? And we say, we're giving you this skateboard so you stay away from drugs, gangs, and all that bad stuff. Skate instead. And I always try to give them words of encouragement like, go to college, or I'll say something like, when you grow up, you have to be my doctor, okay? You never know. Those words and that experience combined might resonate in their mind for years to come. It can make a big difference in the path they choose in life. And for every kid that embraces becoming a skater instead of getting into criminal activity, well, we're completing our mission one child at a time. Poverty is a vicious cycle. We gotta take it on viciously. People always ask us, how do we get the money to pay for this? And I tell them that we're funded by contributions made on our website. Aside from that, we also sell these necklace dog tags that funds this project. 100% of the funds made from dog tag sales goes to funding the operation. It goes to getting more supplies, tools to build more skateboards, to get them out faster to these kids, more equipment, getting more people involved in helping us, and reaching more cities, reaching more kids living in these at-risk areas. We believe prevention is the best remedy. What's next for us? Well, we're going to continue to grow and reach more cities, more impoverished neighborhoods. We appreciate all the support we can get. We sincerely ask that you keep us in your prayers. Pray for these kids and pray for this project to transform countless lives. All the glory be to God.